Welcome to MSP Cyber Secure Conversations. I'm Harriet. I'm product manager at Giacom, looking after everything cybersecurity. Another really cool guest, another really cool topic today. I'm lucky to be joined by Rowan from SkyKick. So, hey, Rowan, tell us a bit about yourself.
Hey guys, Rowan Ridley, and I look after the UK business here at SkyKick. Been with the company about 4.5 years now, and really got my feet under the table and feel like I'm a bit of the furniture. But previously, spent the majority of my career in the Microsoft channel, focusing primarily on MSPs and service providers. Yeah.
So you're well armed for what we're going to talk about today then.
I reckon so.
yeah. And this is just like perfect for our audience. So the title we've actually gone for is Being an MSP Can Be Rough. And I'm sure there's so many people out there being like, damn right it can. It's obviously a really broad topic. You said yourself a minute ago, we could probably talk about this for the next hour. What do you think the biggest problem is in the MSP world right now?
I think, to be honest, and it's been the same way for a very long time, and it's the skills and talent gap in the industry. Yes, there's a whole host of other challenges and things I deal with, but I think that's probably the one that really is why I find myself at SkyKick today. When I was approached, 4.5 odd years ago about a role at SkyKick, I was like, don't really think it's the thing for me at this point in time. I'd just come out of the back of spending some time at Rackspace, who are obviously sort of one of the industry leading MSPs. And then I was pitched this product that wasn't in market yet, which is our Cloud Manager platform. And it was essentially, it just solved the skills gap in one. It took all of the great things that automation can do, and it started to really solve that. And I'd spent all my time at Microsoft helping partners move their businesses to the cloud. So a lot of legacy hosters and service providers who are having to kind of make this shift into the cloud. There's just not enough skills there. I mean, when I started out, you had SIs, LSPs, managed service providers, and then this onslaught of everyone acquiring everyone and wanting to do everything happened. And it's just, I think it's caused this big gap in the channel. And I think we're also a fast growing industry, which, means that need for that sort of ongoing rake of skills is there. So that's kind of how I ended up here in the first place, and then to have seen that journey sort of carry on evolving, and how SkyKick has started to address some of those issues has been really exciting.
And I think this skills and talent gap will only get bigger. Personally, that's my opinion. Just with tech as it's evolving, the threats as they're evolving, and also as people kind of join the industry, it's quite easy to silo into a particular thing, which means that you stop paying attention to everything else around you. So that will create, a bigger gap, because we'll have loads of experts in lots of things. But as new things come in, hopefully the younger generation will bring it up with them.
And I think customer demand has changed drastically. If you think back 10 years ago, customers were quite happy doing a lot of things themselves. They were quite happy managing their own security, managing their own infrastructure, stuff like that. It's so complex these days. They don't want that risk. So,
No.
Where does that risk land? It lands on their service provider. And ultimately that means that, while as that landscape continues to, broaden and broaden, the level of responsibility that you have as an MSP, does exactly the same thing. And so I think then becomes this real, what is it they say? It was Spider-Man, wasn't it? It was his uncle. He said, with great power comes great responsibility. And so you can always get a Spider-Man quote in there somewhere, but it's true. And your customers are placing their trust in you as a service provider, and you have a responsibility to them. And I think, that brings with it a whole host of challenges, such as how do you find the right talent to kind of build your team up? How do you find the right technology to leverage, in a world where there is, cheap technology out there, there's broad technology out there, and there's highly specified technology out there and expensive technology. How do you make the right decision for your business? And, I think something I find really interesting as a part of my role is going on that journey with partners and really understanding, what value do they place on each of those things? Are they making a commercial decision? Are they making a value decision, simplicity and efficiency decision, and all of those sorts of things? So it is really, really interesting.
Yeah, lots of decisions to make. Yeah.
Lots of decisions.
Now, when we were talking about doing this video the other day, and we were talking about what sort of things you wanted to cover, you talked me through the MSP curse, and I just think it's like it's one of those things. If you're an MSP, you're probably just going to relate to it so much. Just talk us through. Like, have the conversation we had the other day.
No, so I think this is again, something I gleaned from my years of working in the channel. But ultimately, there appears to be this curse, which is you get a customer on board and you spend loads of time, loads of money, often at a loss, getting their environment up and running, getting it all working nice and smoothly, fixing all of the stuff you've inherited from someone else, and it's running great. And suddenly you're profitable. And then they ask, what the hell am I paying for? Nothing breaks anymore. And so I think that's really that's probably a challenge that we are helping partners with on a daily basis. Like, how do I provide value back to those customers? So now my value is no longer fixing things. How do I show them I'm preventing things? How do I show them I'm protecting them when when something goes wrong? How do we surface the things that happen in the background they don't need to know about, but for them to justify having this agreement with you and having this relationship with you, they kind of do need to know about it.
You almost want to send them a weekly report. Here's what could have happened if you didn't have me.
And that is exactly it. And we've actually just dropped. And I appreciate that you didn't even really mean to do this, but we've just dropped a new release into our backup product, which is our sort of an insights part of the product, where partners can go in there and start to take reports out of there to show what's going on within their data protection portfolio, and provide that value back to their customers. Here's how much of your environment is under protection. Here's your snapshot health. Here's everything that's going on. And a backup is a great example of a piece of technology that customers don't need until they need it, right? They're not raising tickets every day. You're not resetting their password. You're not giving them access to something they can't get into. It's only when the proverbial hits the fan that they ring up and they're like, I've lost my data. And so that opportunity to show value with technology like that is few and far between. And that means that proactive element of your service is quite important to proving that value back to the customer and securing that ongoing revenue.
Obviously, what you guys have kind of brought to the market recently is these automation tools, right? And you've already mentioned Cloud Manager, which is why you kind of joined SkyKick. So how could an MSP use those tools to their advantage?
Yeah, and we see probably two very distinctly different engagements across Cloud Manager and Security Manager. So you've got the partners who are maybe further down their journey and in a kind of a more, for want of a better word, sort of more mature part of their, sort of position in their journey. They understand what they want to do. They're doing it, but they're probably wasting a load of time and resource doing it, and they want to find a better way of doing it. And the Cloud Manager platform is an automation platform designed for exactly that. So we're quite often consultatively taking partners on a journey of, right, talk us through your Microsoft 365 journey with your customer, and let's look at what parts of those we can baseline. So like compliance frameworks, being able to say, right, this is the 80% that applies to every customer. Let's run a script that is literally, run a script. My granny could do it. And it's that easy. And you come in and you run a script and it baselines that tenant, right? And you know that you can schedule that to run every week, month, day, whatever, so that those settings can't change. You can schedule to run reports to prove, what you're doing, again, back to the customer, things like that. So that's the sort of the deeper engagement, the more mature partners. And then you've got a bunch of partners who are like, I don't know what I need to do, right? That onslaught of requirements and that demanding industry. I'm not sure what I need to do yet. My responsibility to my customers very, very quickly evolved from doing some password resets and them ringing me to say that they, me saying switch it off and switch it back on again. it's now become, how do I secure my infrastructure? How do I stop data loss? How do I stop threats coming into our organization? And so they want not only that advice and that assistance on that journey, but they want something that's easy to use. They haven't got a team full of PowerShell engineers. They haven't got a team full of people dedicated to leveraging automation. So there's more of an application layer needed for them. And that's where Security Manager was born out of, which was, let's take all of the great things that exist in this, vast platform that is Cloud Manager, and let's focus on the things that are, based around security. Let's put some insights around that, provide valuable insights. Again, back to that point around being able to give things back to customers. And let's help those partners secure their customers, right, in a really easy way. See what threats are coming down the line, scale with those customers as they go on a journey. So it doesn't matter if they start with, 5 basic Microsoft 365 licenses, and whether they end up being 250, business premiums and leveraging Defender and all these other things. You can kind of take them on that journey and continue to show them the benefits of doing so along the way and whatnot. So it's really interesting. I think that's probably, like, I'm not interested particularly in technology, despite finding myself in this industry for God knows how many years. I'm really, really enthusiastic about the business side of things. And so for me, that sort of taking partners on these journeys and understanding where they are, how we can help them, build that profitability, sustainability in their business, and efficiency and things like that. That's where I get my kick. So it's a really interesting part of the job for me.
So obviously with like all of that you can achieve through Cloud Manager and Security Manager, I mean, I'm sure you can relate to this. I don't want another login for anything. I don't want to have to bookmark another website. So just having that single tool that's going to help you do that, it's right up my street. But I mean, that adds loads of value to an MSP, I would say. What else do you think? How else can we give value to those MSPs?
The one thing that I find the most is people want guidance. So, when you talk to partners on the outside, they are probably saying, yeah, I've got it all figured out. I know where I'm going. I know what I'm doing. But actually, when you get them in a cold, dark room and you push them on it, they're like, I don't know what to do. And so I think, exactly. And so that guidance and having a distributor like yourselves there to be able to take them on that journey and say, look, here's the technology that we validated as being the right thing to help you scale your business. Here's how our other partners are doing that. And the benefit of us being a channel organization is we don't have end customers, right? So we don't spend our time speaking to end customers. We will never know that customer as well as our partner does, right? That is your job as a service provider, is to know your customer inside and out. And it's our job to build really, really good technology and learn from the partners that we work with. And I think so because we're a channel organization, we get to provide those insights back to partners and say, hey, here's how someone else is doing it. Have you thought about that? And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And it's not necessarily, it's not necessarily what we advertise and what we productize, but it's that sort of, that is the insights and the intelligence people are looking for. And I think the industry is changing massively. And we had this conversation ourselves. When I started SkyKick, you were picking people to tell them the importance of data protection for 365. Oh, don't worry about it. It's in the cloud. It's fine, And then this shift happened around, especially the pandemic probably helped, but everyone went remote, everyone went Teams, SharePoint, OneDrive, etc. And then they were like, oh, okay, we kind of need to protect this data. But even more so now, there's an outside force driving a lot of this stuff in the industry, and that is the cybersecurity industry. And we are seeing a lot of partners come to us and say, hey, my customer has gone to do their cybersecurity insurance and they have mandated cloud backup for Microsoft 365, or they want to see their secure score, right? So within Security Manager, you connect to Partner Center and you can instantly see the secure score for all of your customers, whether you've got 5 or 500. And so even at that very basic level, being able to go and say to your customer, for a monthly fee, we'll provide you with your Microsoft Secure Score and some recommendations as to what you could do to improve it. It's going to help them drive down their cyber insurance policy. It's going to do all these sorts of things. So there's these outside forces that are starting to drive change. And again, it's one more thing for people to respond to. If you'd have asked a year ago, do you spend much time looking at your secure scores for your customers? A hell of a lot of partners said no. And now most of them will say, well, yeah, actually, because our customers are asking for it for their cybersecurity renewals and stuff like that. So it's really interesting to see these different trends and things like that emerge in the market.
Yeah, and I mean, the more products that your end customer has as an MSP, you can be confident they're set up correctly. They've got everything in place. They're not going to call you on a Friday night and, tell you that something's gone wrong. So it's in everyone's interest for us all to be prepared and have everything there. And things like cyber insurance, we were speaking about cyber insurance the other day. And it's just, they're now compiling these lists, right? Like you just said about having to have cloud backup and having to have all these different things. And if I was an MSP, I would be looking at, okay, what are those, top things that people are looking for? How can we package it together and then sell that? And then that you're selling to your customer, they're not going to have any problem getting their insurance. Easy win.
And that is what we advocate heavily with partners, to be thinking about the baseline, right? So what is the bare minimum that you should have for every single customer? And you run that on every tenant. You run that script that says this is the bare minimum, right? MFA is enabled, conditional access policies, any logins from outside of the UK and your account's shut down, that kind of stuff. What is the bare minimum that gives you the best chance possible to secure your customer? Then start to tie it to their individual needs. So are they heavily regulated and they've got to apply, a bunch of regulatory stuff? They're going through cyber essentials and things like that. And then just really starting to think about, what you can do to help them and to get them into that position. And I think, again, it's like, it's back to that point I made before, right? It's your responsibility. And I think, an interesting question that I like to ask people ask MSPs when I'm talking to them is, does your customer understand who is responsible for all of this? Because I bet you think it's them and I bet they think it's you. And so, one of the first questions I ask whenever I get into an engagement, whether that's about data protection, even if we're just talking 365 backup at a very basic level, does your customer know who is responsible for that? So if there's a data loss, if they don't, it's your job to educate them on that, right? It's your job to say, just for the record, this isn't us. You need a backup solution in place. If you don't want it, sign here and take that risk. Right? And then whether that is down to, again, the secure score and maintaining a good level of security posture, whose responsibility do they think that are? You might think you're just reselling them 365, and they might think that you're on the hook for all of this stuff for a bargain price. And so it's really important that you have that conversation with your customers.
Yeah, but that also goes back to your MSP Cares thing, doesn't it? Like, the more transparent you are and the more you're saying, FYI, you haven't got backup, the more value you're adding. Yeah. I mean, I feel like you're never going to win, are you?
Makes you not want to be an MSP, doesn't it?
Well, I did want to say that, but this video is called Being an MSP Can Be Rough. So
yeah, exactly.
But there is so many good things that MSPs are doing. And if we look at the market and how it's evolving, and things are changing all the time, not just in terms of the technology, but also the threats. But looking at cybersecurity as a whole, what can you see? What do you think is coming around the corner? What have you heard that's going on?
I think, to be honest, there's going to be I think the security insurance side is going to drive a big change. I think it is really going to start to monumentally shift how people start to invest in security, because there's been this blissful ignorance for a long time of, I'm an SMB, no one cares about my data. Not true. They think you're an easy target, actually. And so, I think a lot of the organizations in this country and in every other have lived in blissful ignorance. And I think now the insurers are starting to change that, which I think is then in turn going to drive a big shift in thinking about, where MSPs start to invest, how they get the most out of the technology they've got, how they get the most amount of value for money, all those kinds of things. And back to that skills, the skills gap. That's suddenly, if you have gone from being a service provider to being someone who's on the hook for security and things like that, have you got the skills? Have you got the understanding? Have you got the team around you that really understands that? If not, you've got to go and build it. So I think it's gonna, exactly. And I think that is going to really start to drive change. And you can already see that from some of the things that the Microsoft are doing in themselves. There's a big, obviously the massive amount of AI being introduced into the industry. And I think that is, Christ, I mean, I can't even get my head around ChatGPT, let alone all the other stuff. So it's mind-boggling. And again, there is going to be this consumer level expectation, right? And it's like, if you think about how people buy services now and solutions, everyone used to buy their IT services 3 years in advance, long commitments, upfront capex. And then we started getting our TV from Netflix and going, oh, actually, I can just pay every month. If I don't want it, I can cancel it. And it's like, oh, okay, now, 5 years later, we're all buying OpEx, we're all on no commitment. And so those outside forces and that consumerism, I guess, kind of drives a lot of change in every industry anyway. So yeah, it'd be interesting to watch it unfold, I think.
Yeah. And we'll have this conversation in a year's time, and different things will have happened in that year. And then in a year's time, we'll be like, yeah, we'll be like, oh, we were so naive.
We were full of it back then.
Yeah. But like I say, we could have talked about this for the rest of the day. And I'm so grateful you came on and did this as well. I feel like everything we just talked about is so relevant. And yeah, I wasn't the one who said I didn't want to be an MSP. Or yeah, that's on you, Rowan.
I'll take the blame for that one.
Yeah.
But like you said, there are a bunch of really, really good things as well. And when you speak to the MSPs that are kind of on the positive end of that curve and have sort of gone through a lot of this journey, and they're really, they're enjoying it. Their customers are coming to them, and they're not having to go out looking for customers. Customers are coming to them and saying, hey, I've heard you're doing a really good job. And when you see the enjoyment that those people are getting from that, then it's really great to see. So there's a good side to it.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's the one to see those challenges and find a way to overcome them, isn't it? And and SkyKick are definitely an event that you want to be working with to support, the market. But yeah, like I say, really nice to chat to you.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
We always chat, don't we? We chat too much, probably, but
probably our shortest ever conversation.
Yeah, probably, and it'll be edited. All right. Well, I'll chat to you again soon, but thanks again.
Fantastic.